to It's Okay to Be Gay, the podcast.
Hey, thank you for joining us again on the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast. If you are just joining us for the first time, go ahead and hit pause. Check out the episode right before this one, because this is actually part 2 of the Spencer Mosley story. Spencer Mosley is a great friend of mine, and he was in the middle of sharing his incredible story. It was so good that the first time he was on, we just kept recording and decided to break it into 2 episodes. So, like I said, if you're just joining us for the first time, go back, listen to part 1. If not, keep listening.
You know that all of the good things in life, all the good movies are 2-parters. Telling you, Back to the Future 2, even
Jaws.
better than the first.
That's so true. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Veronica Witt.
And this is David Van Ettenwitt.
Thank you so much, Veronica. I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. Let's catch back up with Spencer and see how things are going. Okay, so we were off on several tangents at some point, I feel, and I want to circle us back around to your recognizing that you, as a youth minister, just decided, like, I don't feel like I'm Catholic anymore. So
yes.
That's where we like left off the legitimate conversation, and then we took off a little bit way over here.
They were great.
I did skip a few chapters, and
that's okay. So I'm curious, and if there's no part of this that was part of your story, that's fine. But I'm just wondering, at what point, if and did you, and how did it go? Like, have that conversation with your family about like, hey guys, so this is me.
So by the time I left Catholicism, my brother had left.
Okay.
So that was pretty much, he was like, he's like, that's cool. Like, he's like, finally. He was like,
finally.
Because
Spencer? He was a bit of that.
No, wait,
attitude,
was he saying finally about you leaving Catholicism?
Yeah, he was like, finally I have somebody else to talk to.
Got it.
Like, yeah, he was. And I'm noticing a trend now, because when I mentioned that to my parents and stuff, it was more of how they treated things with the gay people when I was younger. It was more like we just didn't talk about it hardly, And then it kind of became a problem at like family gatherings. My dad would make jokes like, "Oh, why are y'all not? Why would you even want to help me set up the Christmas lights? You don't even believe in this anymore."
Oh my gosh! Wow,
little snide comments.
That is 100% Catholic guilt right there.
Sounds like
but
my
to be fair,
mom.
I went through like a hardcore atheist phase, so I know I was saying rude shit to him. To be fair, like I was not exactly respectful of their beliefs. So I kind of had to go through that to get to more where I am now, which is more like a healthy agnostic.
Yeah.
Also, I've kind of almost been toying with Jesus again. Like, do I want to go back to anything from that? Like, because like all the love and the like compassion for people, and I still value all of that. So it's kind of like, did I throw the baby out with the bathwater when I kind of ditched all of it? So I guess some part of me still is, but that goes back to my obsessing about the nature of the cosmos a little bit too. So
I get what you just, I can kind of relate to what you just said, the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's very much, that was exactly why when I realized that I wasn't Catholic, because we would read these stories about, Jesus and like, bringing, the injured sheep, whatever, like all the stories were all about compassion for each other. And then in everything that I was seeing, even at a young age, I was very well aware of the kind of exclusivity that Catholicism was showing towards people. And a lot of it didn't make sense to me. There was a lot of hypocrisy. And so I always remember thinking like, well, if Jesus would treat these people this way, why are these people who are saying they're Catholic being, not accepting of these people? And it was always backwards to me.
Yeah, how they align with like the Republican Party is just so funny to me sometimes when I think about it. Like, what if Jesus were to come down to earth right now? Like, would he be all about keeping the immigrants out, or like, building these monstrous cathedrals in Rome and stuff? Like, what would he think about all that,
where was it, exactly? There was this facade, I feel like, to everything. When I'd read about Jesus, I'm like, this is like a humble guy that he's just doing his thing, right? Yeah. So that's very much, that resonates with me too. That like, do like what role does that belong? But anyway,
it's very interesting. So go back to talking about your family, Spencer. Where if ever did that conversation come up with, I mean, so you left the church and your brother had left the church, but then was there any more about, your person, your sexuality, any conversation that, stemmed further from that or?
Yeah. I've come out with the sexuality stuff to my family. I might have even been that day, that fateful day, whatever. Because I didn't really have a traditional kind of coming out story with like kind of the hate or the vitriol or anything. I kind of had more of like a disinterest or an indifference to it, which hurts maybe in a different way,
Sure.
You almost feel not accepted, but you don't. You're kind of left wondering, well, how much can I even have a relationship with my family anymore? And my relationship certainly has changed, with my parents and my siblings super remain Catholic. It has changed for sure. It's not the same as it was.
Is there a level of like disowning that has come into play, or is it more just judgment, or is it more?
Yeah, thank God. Like, because there were definitely times I've needed my family. Like when I lost my job, like I don't know how I would have made it through without my parents.
Right.
So they definitely still love me and care about me. And I know that like they probably would never, if I married a man, I doubt they'd show up. You know what I mean? Like, if they did, it'd be cool, but I wouldn't expect it type thing. So they judge, I guess. They think, I think they more see things though as like Spencer's gone off the deep end. They kind of see it like that, and maybe he'll come back. They kind of see me as like sinner, like committing probably sins that are not good. Like maybe could be damning. Maybe
they're
could be
hoping for that prodigal son's return.
And I think their strategy to do that now, I think, is to not address it at all and just love me. Which is, I'll take that, I'll accept the love and they do their best, I think we've gotten to a very good place now where I respect them and we kind of just know what not to talk about on both sides.
There you go.
So
let's go. That's better
we're
than
able
my
to
mom's
have a
doing.
decent relationship. Oh yeah, it's better. You said that's better.
I was like, that's better than my mom's doing because she has no filter sometimes.
Oh no!
I'm like, Mom, why do you keep bringing this up? Nobody agrees with you, and it's always controversial. Just don't talk about it.
How about we just not talk about it?
Don't talk about it, and then that solves all sorts of problems. And she's like, well, then I'm not supposed to talk about anything. I'm like, no, Mom, there's like literally a million other things to talk about then.
When she opens her mouth.
I can't. It's like, I feel like I can't even say anything. I'm always walking on eggshells and, tiptoeing. I'm just like, because you always just talk about the bull.
Put the eggs there, Marion. You put the eggs on the floor.
And you stepped on them. And now there's shells everywhere.
All over.
It's like, look, when you open your mouth and everybody starts walking to the liquor cabinet, you need to reevaluate how you're doing things,
You literally, that is like the most literal thing that has happened. I'm not even joking.
But usually what ends up happening...
I'll have another Bud Light, please.
Is that when she's... I love my mom. Don't get me wrong. I was just over helping her with her pool today.
Yeah.
I love my mother, and I will always love my mother. But
me too.
When she's up in Wisconsin and the whole family's there, and she's in the house, everybody else is in the store, and then she comes in the store to do something, and everybody's like, "Let's go in the house."
He's not even making it up. Yeah, he's not making it up.
It's across the parking lot, and it's and my mom is just always like, And I don't know what it is. I was like, I've been talking to my sister, it was like, what is going on? What is it so, and like, neither of us can exactly pinpoint it, but it's something. But anyway.
But we know.
That is so funny.
I hijacked your conversation.
No. I want to hear this stuff too. That's interesting.
It can be in the after hours.
That is enough.
That is interesting.
So you are in a position now, Spencer, where you're single, and there's this element of your person that doesn't exactly align with being this way or that way, or it's so you're kind of in the mix of still trying to figure things out.
I think that sums it up, because either it's just OCD and I fall in love with men but prefer to have sex with women, or I prefer men in every way and I just haven't figured that out yet. That's kind of the only two options really left here. And then so I think I'm going about it the right way. I always go out to gay bars and I have my friends there now, and if I meet the right person, great. So I'm just trying to, and of course, I have my community now. I do theater. I'm trying to do comedy and stuff. So
that's awesome.
Just trying to, I feel like if I kind of keep becoming more the version of myself that I want to be, maybe I'll meet somebody where we kind of align and can make a life together, whether that be a man or a woman. At this point, I just kind of want someone to come home to at the end of the day. I don't necessarily even want to get married. I just want, someone I consider like my best friend, a confidant, a
stable partner,
and have, stability and just,
Like, you want to move to Madison?
Yeah. Let's make it happen. Let's do this.
Coincidentally,
what
similar.
Literally you just said.
Hey, Madison, Wisconsin sounds lovely. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Oh my God, matchmaking service.
Funny.
So this is the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast, and you could find her.
Oh, that's so funny.
No, I was gonna say though, Spencer, it's a really healthy way to be looking at your journey. I mean, I feel like we come across so many people who have one way or the other that they definitely say, yes, I'm gay, yes, I'm a lesbian, yes, I'm bi, yes, I'm trans, and they've gone through that, and I think it just highlights like that there's a lot of people out there probably like you that you're just trying to figure it out. You're trying to find a person to jive with. And I think that's great that you're honoring it for what it is, and you're not trying to put yourself in one box or the other. And I think that's just great of you that you have that that self-awareness that you can be comfortable to do that. Because I feel a lot of people, and especially if you say with OCD, I don't know, but I feel like a lot of people would feel like that in itself, it would be so uncomfortable that you would be driven to like, nope, this is what I define myself as.
Sure,
and I think that's great that you're allowing yourself that flexibility to experience and be open to experiences too. So I think that's a great way to be.
I appreciate that. No, yeah. Sometimes I don't see my own progress, I just see the obstacle. And this is definitely like something difficult for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Would it be fair to say that you were the plus in the LGBTQ plus
or the
color
Q.
Of,
I don't know.
Or
yeah.
Is that the question?
I think that's awesome. Yeah, and I think it's important for people who are out there listening and people who are going through the same exact thing to know that it's okay that you don't fall into a certain category, that there's not a requirement to assign yourself a letter or a plus sign or a question mark or whatever. And it's being part of this broader community is not limited to just, cis women who love each other and cis men who love each other and are lesbians and gays, or that, find mutual attraction between, the sexes, or who are, confused about their sex. And so we're going through that transition period. But like anybody who is part of that community and however that looks is, who we're here for and whose, stories we love to share and who we're hoping is listening is, anybody that falls anywhere on that very colorful rainbow that we, find ourselves with these days. So I think it's really neat that you definitely showed that you, there's not a perfect box for everybody all the time.
I that like the most uncomfortable question I could probably be asked is what do you identify as? Because I'm just like, I don't like putting a label on it. It's not. Yeah. But I actually have a good question for you, or maybe not a good one, but a question for you, David. Like, do you find it, like I heard you say you went to church today, has that been something where you've had to come to terms with like, hey, I live this way, the church teaches these things, but I'm going to take the good and accept that there's room for growth in this organization. Is that kind of how that goes, or?
Yeah, I think that's very exactly my mindset in that actually, and this is a conversation I've had with one of my good friends who actually lives in Oklahoma and Northern, close buddy of mine, and we've had this conversation. His wife works for the Diocese of Oklahoma City, and they have been devout Catholics their whole life and are now raising 4 kids Catholic. And we talked a little bit about this, and I said, there's no part in my being that doesn't appreciate my upbringing as Catholic, and there's no part of my being that now, having embraced my own sexuality, and I mean, for Pete's sake, I'm married to a man, like obviously living a comfortable gay life, there's no part in my person that feels conflicted that I still love Jesus, and that he still loves me. And as far as like what the church teaches and believes, I think that there's like a gap in their theology, their doctrine, and I don't mean in any way to question the teachings of the church or the doctrines of the church, dogmas of the church, or anything of that nature. But I think that there's just like a missing element where somewhere along the line they miss that whole thing that we are created out of love and we are created for love, and that love manifests itself many different ways. And so in my mind, like, I'm comfortable still going and practicing my faith, and other people don't have to do that if they don't want to. And there are so many people that don't. And I'm fine with people not doing that. I also recognize that when I do go to church and I'm sitting in a pew of 12 people, every single one of those people is probably in a state of mortal sin according to the teachings of the church, whether they know it or not. So I'm in good company when I'm there, because I recognize that
we're all going to hell together.
The stones, the stones that they would throw at me for my sins are no different, really, than the things that they would themselves have actually done. So, I've just come to grips with the fact that, like, I know how I feel about who I believe is my Lord and my Savior, and I know how He feels about me, and so there really isn't any like hang up in me doing that and being a part of that. And that's just the way that I've come to grips with things. And some people don't come to grips with that, and that's okay. Some people, like, I didn't grow up going to Catholic schools, but I am pretty confident that of my like 10, 12 cousins, like, I'm the only one that still goes to church. And that's okay. Like,
yep.
There's no
that is so beautiful,
hard feelings on anybody's side.
Well, you're not.
You are the coolest Catholic I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
because you're not judgmental. You are taking all of the good things about what I learned with being in Catholic school and church and those things. But
it's almost like you're living what it's supposed to be.
I was just going to say,
I did kind of interrupt there. Yeah,
very much living. Yeah, no, you're good.
Sorry.
No, but that's great. That's what's great about you, David. That's it's the non-judgmental, and that's kind of what I feel like. I just wish everybody would have just a little bit more of that.
Yeah, and I get people who are by the book devout Catholics. I get their mindset. I get where they're coming from because I came from there.
Yeah.
I've been there. I have a master's degree in theological studies, like beyond what you normally hear in church on Sundays. Like I've gone the scholarly, like deeper route of it. And I understand the foundations of all of that stuff. Not all of it. I'm not that ignorant. But like, and so for me, like it's more, you can be a devout Catholic and you can be a devout Baptist and Methodist and Hasidic Jew and whatever else. And, the people who ascribe to Islam and Buddhism and whatever else. And your faith and your religion and what you practice, it tells you that these are the rules and these are the laws. And at some point, probably across the board, any one of those religions and any one of those faiths and any one of those practices, there's a hang up, there's a disconnect between what actually makes sense and then what you're teaching and preaching. And there is that common theme, though, across the board that, love is love, and we are all supposed to love one another like we want to be loved, and we are supposed to treat each other like we want to be treated. It's that golden rule that everybody talks to and everybody knows about, and so few people actually practice that. And when something conflicts in your religion or your faith or your practices or just your lack of faith or lack of religion or whatever, a lot of people, I think, hang on to like that mistakenly, like they're, this is what the book says and we got to do this, and this is what the leader is talking about, so we got to do this. And it's like, no, because it doesn't make sense anymore. Like you have to recognize there are holes in the system, there are gaps in the story. Like if at any point in time the message is no longer that ultimate golden rule, then the message has
been lost a little bit
somewhere,
Oh, it's really well said, man. God, I wish you were a priest. Oh my gosh, you should be a married priest. Like maybe go Methodist. Maybe go Methodist. You still have Jesus. Go Methodist. You still have Jesus. You can still preach.
Methodist.
Well, they don't. I mean, Lutheran's closer because they still have Eucharist.
Episcopalian. They Unitarians are really cool. That was my only church I've been to since I left Catholicism that I was like, I could keep, because I went to the Unitarian church and it was really small in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And at some point I said, hey, y'all, I don't really know about this whole God thing. I'm just kind of here to get, I was like, is that okay? And they're like, yeah, that's why all of us are here. Literally, that's what somebody told me. And this was during the service, like where anybody could just talk. It was so laid back and chill. I was like, I could be
honestly
a church member here.
The same thing. I had the same.
It's so cool. It's so funny. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I don't know, but going back 5 minutes, going back 5 minutes ago, my conversation with my friend Sam, and I was my buddy in Oklahoma. I said, I think that when science catches up to religion and there is evidence or proof or whatever there would need to be that something has to change, that, people who have same-sex attraction, I mean, I don't think this is anything that I chose. I really think that this is the way that I was built. This is the way that I came out of my mold. The last time that I checked, the grand majority of people believe that we're created from some higher powder. Yeah, powder. Some higher power.
I believe it's more liquidy than powder.
And if this is the way that I was made, there's not a mistake in that. Like, I am who I am. And at some point, we're going to get to that where we recognize that, some people just come out thinking that way. And they have this, hard wire that they're, romantically, sexually, emotionally attracted to the same sex, and there shouldn't be any questioning that. There shouldn't be any doubting that. And I think at some point we will catch up, and we'll get to that point, and there will be not immediate or blanket across the board changes, but there will be changes that occur. And it's we just don't have the whole picture yet.
Pope Francis has taken steps that way, which is cool.
Yeah, I think he's cracked the door into recognizing that homosexuality is it's not like a condition.
It's just another form of love. Like,
just, yeah, but it is a real way that maybe people are created. And the entire basis of the Catholic churches, and then by default every other Christian church after it's, teaching on homosexuality comes from a very limited resource, very small mentionings in, Old Testament scripture that XYZ happened, and then now this is like disordered, and this is bad, and this goes against that. And then from that, everything else kind of was like taught on top of that. And if we had 5,000 years ago, what we have now, scientifically speaking and medically speaking, I think that teaching or that understanding may have been different.
Yeah, I think so.
And so we're going to get there. And I was talking about that conversation, and I said, as far as I know, that's like the way that people are made. You need a man and a woman, and that's why some sex is bad and some sex is good, because certain sex is ordered towards procreation and certain sex is disordered not towards procreation or whatever. And he goes, well, what happens when we no longer need a man and a woman for creation? I was like, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And funnily enough, he just sent me an article like a month ago that like scientists took 2 male mice, they extracted the Y chromosome off of one of them, made a double X chromosome, bred a egg from that chromosome, inseminated it with the other male's like sperm, and basically made a fully functioning, perfectly fine, like new mouse from 2 men.
Wow.
I was like,
hell yeah.
That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And there won't be human application for that for quite some time, probably. But I was like, that totally goes against everything that we believe is ordered,
right,
or natural.
Right, 100%.
But now it's a possibility, so it's the new order, it's the new natural. And I was just like, that's going to open a lot of doors for a lot of discussions about a lot of things. And I think that this is all just part of that larger discussion. So eventually we'll come around. It'll be there. Anyway,
it's just interesting to take all of your wisdom from like the Old Testament, you know what I mean? Like it's just Yep. There's a lot more to that entire story. And that
Jesus
didn't even bring it up. Like Jesus was like, the gays are fine. Yeah, who cares? He's like,
cool.
Jesus was probably gay,
They're cool with me.
John laying on his chest at the Last Supper, gay.
Yeah.
Come on.
Very
come
gay.
on.
Of course.
So gay.
Obviously.
Jesus was, he only hung around 12 dudes. Come on now.
Yeah.
I think Jesus was gay. And that's okay. And that it's okay for Jesus
that
to
is
be
okay to be
We
gay.
know that it's okay to be gay.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. So Spencer, if you had to give a amount of advice, how about a piece of advice?
A bit of wisdom.
Which amount?
Yeah. Just
this much.
So, Spencer, if you had to share some wisdom with people who are listening who are going through the same sort of path of self-discovery and self-understanding that you have gone through and are still going through, what sort of advice would you bestow upon them if they were open to such things?
Yeah, I think if someone was feeling the same way as me, I would just say keep being honest. Eventually you'll find the right therapist or the right person that, helps you kind of... Because I think the problem that I had was I was having bad advice when I was being very honest about my feelings and stuff. I got advice of like, it'll go away, you're... but just keep being honest to yourself and keep going through life and just, and keep telling everybody that you fall in love with exactly how you feel, and I think just staying true to yourself is the best advice I can give. Cause, I think that's the most valuable thing you can do personally is like be authentic and be true to you, because what else do you have to be true to,
It's beautiful.
Totally.
Very cool, man.
Yeah, but I'm not wise, so that could have all been bullshit for all I know.
Whatever.
That's just what I would do.
We'll take it.
No,
But
that
it is
was
okay
great.
to be gay. I love the title of this podcast, and that's so cool what y'all are
thank
doing,
you.
man. That's really freaking cool.
I appreciate that. And the hope and the goal is that you are just one of dozens of people that will be able to share their story. And just one of dozens and dozens of people who, will find, some sort of solace or confirmation maybe, or a little nugget of truth or wisdom while listening to this podcast, and it'll make their
100%.
lives easier or better, because at the end of the day, all of us, everybody who is listening, everybody who's on this podcast, we are going through this journey of life together. It is a one-way street, and we're literally all in this together. So
Yeah. Agreed.
perfect, man.
Excellent.
Man.
Well,
that was beautiful, man. That was
thanks.
Beautiful.
No, this has been great.
Thanks
and
for having me.
I appreciate the opportunity to catch up with you, and I appreciate the opportunity to have you share your story.
Yeah,
and
thanks for
us
having me
all
on.
to take that in. Yeah, you're more than welcome. Veronica, thank you again for
Yeah.
popping
thanks,
in.
man.
And it was
helping
great
us
meeting
with
you,
this.
talking with you, Spencer.
You too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, for listening. Just know that you are recognized, that you are appreciated, and you are loved here. And we will see you on our next episode of the It's Okay to Be Gay podcast. Have a great rest of your day.